Just moments ago, Wikileaks founder Julian Assange was denied bail by a London judge after being arrested on rape charges in Sweden. Assange told the judge he would fight extradition and he'll be in custody until a court date 1 week from now. The most recent Wikileaks document dump, meantime, may be used as essentially a terror target wish list. Joe Tacapena is a criminal defense attorney and former federal prosecutor. Jamie Smith is a former CIA paramilitary officer and a former air marshal instructor. Good morning to both of you. And Joe, let me start with you. So what happens next? He's going to go to jail. He says he's going to fight extradition. Right. Legally, where does it go from here?
You know, there'll be an extradition proceeding. I don't expect it to be drawn out, and I don't expect it to be successful. You know, he has to answer the criminal charge in Sweden that have absolutely nothing to do with this.
So he'll have to go back there, you think?
No question, because...
And the fact that he's in custody now, does that have any influence on the case that the U.S. Justice Department is trying to build against him because of these leaks? You
know, I don't think so. I mean, it's good to know where he is, because I think that was a question at some point. But
hold on 1 second. We need to go to the courtroom. What's going on there? Oh.
Calm down,
this is his lawyer. It looks like his lawyer outside, one of his lawyers outside the court, just leaving after, again, he was denied bail. I don't know. Obviously, they'd like him to answer questions. Doesn't look like he's going to answer any questions here. Going away from a horde of media. When we were talking to our reporter in London, he was just saying what. Let me listen.
Back. You take it. Come on. Okay, stand. All right. From the taxi, please.
So no information out of the Julian Assange's camp there. Obviously, they had wanted him released on bail, and they were going to fight extradition, so they're going to have to wait on that. Okay, we're being told that that was a man who had come offering to help Julian Assange with his case. He put up money, but he was denied bail, so I'm not sure if that's money for his legal defense. There's always been some questions about the amount of money Julian Assange has, how he finances this. We know that now not only did PayPal cut off sources of funding for WikiLeaks, but also now MasterCard and Visa today. So that's a whole other story. But let me go over to this whole question about whether or not this information that he's been leaking and that's been causing such an uproar here in the United States could be used by jihadists with links to Al-Qaeda. They have begun an online discussion, they say, on how they can exploit these documents because they name sites around the world that are crucial to American national security. Jamie, what's your take on that?
Good morning. Yeah, the National Infrastructure Protection Plan is what we're talking about here, and the cable that was released was going around to the different embassy posts asking for critical infrastructure and key resource sites in the host nations. And these included everything from pharmaceutical manufacturers that our country relies on to dams, energy, and communications sections. And essentially, this is a wish list for the bad guys. This does in one document what foreign spies take years to do. And every crackpot dictator, organization, and country that hates our nation is going to be going over this stuff with a fine-tooth comb. And essentially, all they have to do now, they've already got the list. What they have to do now is simply send their reconnaissance element, or their spies, to these sites to look at them and determine which ones have security and which ones don't.
We have to go live to the courthouse now.
Then they can just put together an attack plan.
And it was brought back after a political intervention. It's an outrageous case.
Do you believe that the allegations are untrue then? How many political influences you see in this? I mean, today we have a court.
I don't know how many political influences. I know there was one political influence, of course. I mean, anybody who looks through the details of the case in Sweden, this shouldn't have happened today. This is an innocent man. I'm not going to go into particular detail of the case, but you know, this is a man who's made some very serious enemies for the very best of reasons, and has done a job of extraordinary journalism on behalf of all of us. That's the point about Julian Assange. He has served the cause of justice and democracy for many, many people, but he's done an extraordinary job of journalism. And any journalist who feels anything about what we do should be supporting him 100%. This is unjust.
Mr. Pilger, how much were you prepared to put up?
No, I'm going to get
Mr.
chewed.
Pilger, how much were you prepared to offer as sureties?
Where's it go from here? There's another hearing on the 14th.
But Mr. Assange is going to be held in custody until then.
That's what the magistrate decided.
Mr. Pilger, do you have concerns for him being in prison?
That was John Pilger, an Australian journalist and documentary maker, obviously a supporter of Julian Assange, and a lot of his supporters, we are told, came out to that courthouse in London today where he was denied bail. While this is all happening and while he's being held pending extradition to Sweden, Joe Tacapena, the Justice Department here has been trying to figure out a way to charge him. In fact, they've been doing that for months, really probably since July. Dianne Feinstein argued in an op-ed piece that he should be tried under the Espionage Act.
Right.
Others say maybe under receiving stolen property. How difficult is it for justice to build a case?
Oh, it's not going to be that difficult, Chris. I mean, they're coming after him. I heard Eric Holder's comments, the Attorney General's comments today, and a violation of the Espionage Act simply takes two things: willful disclosure of secret and/or sensitive information. This was willful. He's bragging about it, and I don't think there's any question it's secretive and/or sensitive information, and there is a legitimate cause of action against him from a criminal standpoint.
This hasn't been successfully used before, though, in this way.
You know, it's not, but I don't think we've ever seen the sorts of disclosures we've seen from this individual ever. And you know, he calls himself a journalist. I mean, I think many would dispute the fact that he's a journalist. I think he's an entrepreneur who you know, I think will find that in a very questionable manner receive some information from maybe a disgruntled private in the Army or something like that. But you know, this stuff here is a violation of the Espionage Act, if true, and we have to assume that what we're hearing about these disclosures is true. And if it is, he's going to be indicted in the United States, and he may never see the light of day again.
Well, it's very interesting here from the judge, Judge Howard Riddle, what he said, Joe, in making his decision not to give him bail today is that he had, quote, substantial grounds to believe the 39-year-old would not turn up for subsequent proceedings, and then he put Assange into UK custody. Does that surprise you, given his history?
Not at all, given his history of disappearing at times. And also, understand this, the claim here, I mean, I heard his lawyer and/or supporter, whoever that individual was, talking about it being a conspiracy and the U.S. must be behind this. I mean, here's a woman in Sweden who's claiming she was raped by this individual.
Two individuals.
Two individuals in Sweden claiming they were raped by an individual. I mean, I think the U.S. could do better than that if they want to set someone up. I mean, obviously, he will have to answer to those charges, and because England it carries the same sort of punishment for that type of crime, extradition is a fait accompli. He will be extradited to Sweden.
Let me go back to you and talk a little bit more, Jamie, about the threat as you see it, because actually Julian Assange did an op-ed piece for an Australian paper today, and for people who don't know, he is from Australia, and he made a very impassioned argument about why he believes this is journalism, about why he believes that this is the best thing that can happen in a free and open society. And frankly, there are people who have argued that these sites that are mentioned in particular, that the jihadists say that they may be able to use against their enemies, including the United States, presumably, are actually sites that could be found easily on the internet. Is it clear that he's putting out information, at least in this particular case, that they couldn't get otherwise, or are they merely using this as an opportunity?
No, the fact that the document that he released, the NIP document that he released, it specifically says that these sites, if exploited or disrupted, will have an immediate and deleterious effect on the United States. And, you know, we're talking about, yeah, sure, some of these things, pharmaceutical companies, you know, dams, those sorts of things, they're out there on the internet. but other things like where the undersea communications cables arrive on land in different particular areas of the world. You know, these are not things that you're going to be able to Google and find out easily. You know, so again, it's putting the list together. And what intelligence is gathering information that some of it is open source and some of it you gather from sources that provide it to you because you can't find it easily. And that's what intelligence officers do. But what this guy's done is he has taken that information and he's taken it, stolen it from us, from our country, and we have attempted to protect it. He stole it from us, and then he has produced it to anybody that wants to see it. And you know what he's done is, just as Joe just got through saying, he has willfully disclosed information that he was told on 27 November by the State Department's General Counsel in a letter to him, and they said, look, this is our material, we want it back, and we want you to destroy your database. That is setting up the prosecution right there, because he's made aware of it and he did it anyway. And just as Joe said, he's been bragging about it. These sites, once somebody goes to these sites and starts to look at them, it's simply a matter of ranking them in order of their importance, and then you rank them in order of their security, and then you can hit them.
Well, let me go to the other side of this argument, because according to Assange and his supporters, days before releasing the diplomatic cables, he actually went to the U.S. ambassador in London confidentially, and he had all the documentation. He said, help me to determine what needs to be redacted here before we release these documents. And the ambassador refused, telling Assange, hand over this property. Hand over this stolen property. Does that help Assange's case?
Not really. I mean, look, that's certainly something the defense, if this becomes a trial, will hang on to, saying, look, the U.S. is so arrogant that they wouldn't even sit down with us in an attempt to decipher what was really sensitive and what was not. That being said, the ambassador said to him it was stolen property, and the letter from the State Department said it was stolen property and it's sensitive material. So if you're on notice, a responsible journalist, and I say that loosely, would certainly, before going and putting something that could endanger the well-being or the safety of millions and millions of innocent people, would really vet that and make sure that they had a firm legal standing. You know, this is cyber, really what it is cyber warfare on the United States.
It's a whole new world out there, isn't it?
It really is. That internet, you know, as good as it can be at times, it really has a way of destroying and damaging people without much editorial control.
And it certainly is a whole new world for journalism and what constitutes journalism, and it's going to be a fascinating story to follow. Joe,
Sure will.
Thanks for coming in today and rolling with this breaking news. Jamie Smith, thanks to you as well, as we continue to look at the scene in London where Julian Assange has been denied.